You're not lazy, you're not unmotivated, you're not untalented, you're just running on fumes. Burnout in the marketing world. Let's talk about it. Happy Monday, Carnies, and welcome back to the Daily Carnage Show. I'm Shannon, I'm a digital marketing strategist at Carney, and I am your host, so grab your coffee and let's get started. I've been seeing a lot of headlines this spring that say marketing is in crisis. And it's not because the tactics aren't working, it's because the people behind the tactics are drowning. If you're like me, you got into marketing and advertising because it's fast-paced, because there's something new on your desk every day, because it's really rewarding to realize ideas to completion, to collaborate with other creative people, to enter a sort of flow state every time you go to work on a project, to be compensated and recognized for your creativity. Maybe you love the intersection of art and science that is this industry. Or maybe you were attracted to the ad agency culture that prioritizes fun and flexibility and fluidity and, I don't know, foosball in the office. Now in 2025, I would hazard a guess that those benefits are starting to feel tenuous or vulnerable, and the data supports this. According to Marketing Week's 2025 Career and Salary Survey, 58.1%, over half of marketers have felt overwhelmed in the last 12 months. 56% have felt undervalued, 51% have experienced emotional exhaustion, 48% reported losing enjoyment in their work, 48% have developed a detached or negative attitude, and 40% feel ineffective. This is a crisis of creativity and of confidence. And these numbers are consistent across job levels, genders, company sizes, and specialties. Emotional exhaustion was reported by 56% of females, 42.5% of male marketers, 53% of managers, and 50% of marketers at the CMO, VP, senior level. Not only that, but 50% of junior staff report feeling emotionally exhausted, which is concerning because these are people at the beginning of their career. And so as we do in every issue of the Daily Carnage, we polled our subscribers and we found that 75% of our respondents rated their burnout at 3 out of 5 or higher. And we know how burnout affects industries like air travel or healthcare, but how does it affect people who are responsible for constant creativity, innovation, and lead generation? You might be burnt out if you struggle to focus and strategize, if you miss deadlines and opportunities consistently, if you're just relying on old playbooks and tactics because you're too tired to strategize new ones, if you feel that you're producing inconsistent, low-quality content, and especially if you find yourself spending more of your time reacting than proactively planning. The result of all of this is declining results. To check in with myself, I'm not currently at a place of burnout, but I absolutely have been at certain times in my career. And I think the canary in the coal mine for me does tend to come down to collaboration. When I'm rested and creatively, mentally, holistically nourished, I feel secure and confident and excited to share my ideas. I'll have the energy to fight for feedback I believe in. I'm coming from a place of curiosity about other people's ideas and the way they see the world. All of the other disparate parts of my life will be pulled into the brainstorm. The things I'm reading, the things I'm watching, the things I'm consuming, art history, the sciences. My brain will just be firing across all of these intersections. And if you have a team of people operating this way, the result is great work. But if I'm burnt out, I find myself showing up to work in a defensive posture. I have to protect my energy, so I have to make a lot of compromises. Negative feedback can feel like a threat to the limited time and energy I'm already working with. I start to lack agency in regards to the work that I'm doing. Everything starts to feel more like an assignment than a project I'm excited about. And as somebody who is creative in their free time, when I'm really burnt out, the last thing I'm gonna do is give my employer one of my good ideas because it feels like there's so few and far between. What I'm describing is almost like a depression. You know, when you're insecure in your work as a marketer, you can also feel insecure in your identity as a creative person, as an intelligent person, as a member of a community. In the jobs that I've really been burnt out at, I didn't leave with friends. I was emotionally unavailable, not just in the work that we were doing, but interpersonally. Burnout isn't just personal. It's a cultural and industry level breakdown. And of course, there are things that happen in our personal lives and in the world at large that do contribute to our individual burnout. But on a fundamental level, burnout is systemic. It's not your fault. So let's talk about what's going on. Why does it happen? Number one, digital overload. Let's just say there are very few of us left that are doing anything other than digital marketing right now. 90% of my career, I've been a digital marketing strategist. But there were a few years there where I worked for higher education in a rural setting where our two biggest and most effective channels were billboards and radio. Let me tell you, it was so serene. But most marketers are drowning in notifications, and 66% report burnout from this always-on digital culture. And I'm not even just talking about your Slack blowing up or never being able to reach inbox zero. There's an unwritten expectation that even when you're not on the job, you're online. You are a subject matter expert of being online. I think social strategists and managers might suffer the most in this regard. When those were my primary roles, there was truly nothing I wanted more than to delete all of my personal social media accounts. They were no longer these channels of personal connection with my friends and family, but instead places I was doing constant marketing research off the clock, keeping a thumb on the pulse, memorizing the trends and the trending sounds, constantly strategizing on what would work for any given client. These algorithms are as addictive to marketers as they are to civilians, which meant that not only was I trapped on a wheel of content, but I was also performing so much free mental labor. When these sort of tabs are always open in your head, that flow state, that deep thinking ability, the beautiful privilege of uninterrupted work, it dissolves entirely. The healthiest places I've worked were full of writers sitting in front of blank documents with blinking cursors, with designers carrying around sketch pads and just kind of doodling all of the time. People stopping their work to talk about movies and literature and culture, the spirit of availability, because good ideas can come from anywhere. But when you're stuck in a cycle of clearing notifications, being yourself kind of plugged into the cloud at all times, you're just no longer available to the muses. And I think more importantly to yourself. Number two, and we talked about this in our neurodivergence episode, but there is a little bit of an obsession with multitasking and meetings. I'm not sure where along the way multitasking became associated with efficiency and productivity. To qualify this, I know that everybody works differently, and I've certainly worked with the type of personality that really thrives on having all of those tabs open at the same time, moving very nimbly between tasks. Some people really love an afternoon meeting marathon. People are energized by different things. However, nearly 77% of marketers say that more time for focused work would help reduce their burnout. When I worked at a really large agency, we often could not meet because all of the meeting rooms were booked. We weren't terrorized by the sudden Zoom link appearing in the Slack chat. You don't know what you got till it's gone. The point is, constantly switching your focus from micro to macro and back again, it takes an intellectual and creative toll. And creative people especially benefit from single tasking, losing yourself in a train of thought, building out the world of a concept and escaping into it. Or honestly, inviting boredom. So much of my creative process is just sort of like relaxing my vision until the foreground fades away, kind of like tapping my pencil, dare I say putting my head down on the desk, falling into a Wikipedia hole so inexplicably deep until all of the threads floating about me begin to braid into something that we can use. The contemporary sensibility will tell you that portrait of creative process is inefficient, slow, not productive enough because of number three, unrelenting demand. I wish I could remember the exact moment that content became king so that I could travel back in time and interrupt the coronation. There was a real pivot when writers and artists and designers became content creators. There was a moment in time when we kind of stopped using the language of storytelling, world building, writer, designer, artist, and everything became content creator, content strategist, asset. And if you spend any amount of time on marketing and advertising subreddits, you hear that most people feel that it's their life's work now to just feed content into a massive machine with an unrelenting appetite. The pace has become unsustainable. We just got it all wrong. It's not the content machine that you feed, it's the personnel, the team, the talent, because they're stuck on a treadmill of low impact content and they're deeply fatigued. And it goes without saying that none of this is really resulting in meaningful engagement with audiences. But what prevails? Number 4, unrealistic expectations. The name of the game has kind of always been do more with less, but recently it's kind of entered the territory of do the most with nothing at all. We're talking shrinking budgets, but increasing KPIs, KPIs. Meanwhile, people are quietly disappearing from your team and they're just never replaced. It's all about numbers and metrics. The work that we do has never been more measurable, which is really exciting because we can make data-informed decisions and demonstrate the value of the work that we do. But in practice, what has happened is that decision makers are just hyper-focused on performance, in the process undervaluing things like creative exploration. Every campaign becomes a test of your worth. If you miss a target, it could mean layoffs. There's just sort of a low-level anxiety that's compounded by really unclear priorities from leadership, inconsistent goals. So your options become leave your job, lose your job, or leave the ad industry altogether to become a trad wife and make bubblegum from scratch on the internet. Don't do it, it's a trap. But for those who choose to stay, you will undoubtedly be subject to number 5, role creep. Raise your hand if your job title is a complete misnomer, failing to represent even 50% of what you actually do on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, the many-headed marketer is like an internal meme. Everybody's a generalist. Everybody's a designer because we all have Canva accounts. If you're not also a strategist and a data analyst, you're a liability. But the funny thing that happens when these job descriptions balloon is that all the support systems shrink. I think the death of the specialist in marketing is a real tragedy. This is controversial, but can we bring back silos? I want to be siloed. Please, silo me. Take me out to the pasture. Drop me in a silo. Throw away the key. Which brings us to number 6. The hiring disconnect. Everybody is either a unicorn or pretending to be a unicorn, and many people are doing it at a very steep discount. With mass layoffs, the job market is already dismal, and now you have things like AI-powered screening tools filtering out really qualified applicants based on things like keyword mismatches. People in the job market right now are being ghosted regularly, moving through lengthy interview processes, sometimes with AI agents, which is so demoralizing. Don't do that. And again, everybody is auditioning to do the most with nothing. I think about that statistic of half of junior level marketers already feeling burnt out. And it makes sense because this circus is sort of all they have ever known. You know, media made them think that it was all going to be happy hours and whiteboards and hammocks. But if you're here now, you can kind of sense that it's sort of a shell of its former self. Yeah, there's a foosball table, but everybody's kind of too tired to play. And then there's number 7. Say it with me, generative AI. We're all really busy right now, but if you take just a minute to look around, it's pretty clear that everything is changing really fast. From writing copy to building campaign concepts to even answering your emails, it is expected and in many places demanded that AI is a part of your workflow. And yes, it can improve efficiency. It can take some of the more mundane tasks off of our plate. So maybe we can focus more on creativity. Right? No. Now that AI exists, marketers are expected to do even more in less time and still somehow be original and deeply human and strategic. Now we don't just feed the content machine. We're engineering prompts to feed the chatbots. We are automation experts. You can feel how terrified people are of being replaced by AI, or at least outpaced by their peers that are already AI experts. Meanwhile, the average person is just still trying to figure out how they feel about this massive cultural shift that has happened just in the last 2 years. We're no longer just trying to keep up with the tech stack. We're trying to constantly redefine and reinvent what it means to be valuable to a marketing team. And this is impossible labor. What you have now is a silent epidemic of completely checked out creative people. Burnout is what happens when human systems are burdened with the expectation for machine-like output. And this has been a problem since the dawn of time, exacerbated by the Industrial Revolution, and now completely redefined by generative AI. The TLDR here is that marketing isn't as fun as it used to be. It used to be about psychology and storytelling and innovation and doodling. And yeah, there was a lot of foosball. But now it's just programmatic placement and AI prompts and dashboards on dashboards, which is fine because we're adaptable. But when that shift happens without support, without time for reflection, without community care, you're not just fatigued, you're lacking purpose. In conclusion, that sucks. So how do we fix it? In my research, a lot of the solutions out there appear to be written by AI. And a lot of the people uniquely positioned to help solve this problem are burnt out. For real though, there are people working on this. In March, the Marketing Accountability Council published a system that's built by marketers for marketers to really address these broken processes and start rebuilding better practices. Their framework focuses on spotting symptoms of broken processes, understanding their root causes by working through some of our shared delusions, putting things through filters before shipping work as a kind of gut check, and then building toward ethical standards through transparency, relevance, utility, storytelling, and tangible impact. So new data from Fast Company showed that workers spend 23% of their time, or about one full workday per week, in meetings. We all kind of feel this to be true, but really seeing the data is the first step toward advocacy. As a result, companies have started testing no meeting work weeks or no meeting Fridays, and the result has been promising. Companies like Beehive were able to double their output during their no meeting sprint by just relying on written commitments. The only way out of this burnout and erosion of creativity and team culture is the same antidote to writer's block or any other creative stagnation. You have to steal back some of that time for flow state, intellectual nourishment, inquiry, and curiosity that may lead you nowhere. That's what made this fun. It's Monday. I invite you to lay your head down on your desk, literally or figuratively. Take a whole hour to browse the internet. Not your email, not your social feeds. Just stumble upon something. Eat lunch, skip a meeting, draw something in the margins today. And now it is finally time for an ad from the past, and I will leave you with two today. It is my sincerest hope for you that one day you are given a brief that leads you to kickin' jeans and inflatable sauna shorts. May we all be so lucky. That wraps it up for the Daily Carnage show this week. Thanks so much for joining me. Make sure to like and subscribe across all our socials, and don't forget to subscribe to our daily marketing newsletter, The Daily Carnage. Until next week, I'll see you in the inbox. Have a great week, Carnies.